The Ravens flogged the 49ers in an epic beatdown by the Bay. The story still got legs. It was that big a rat kill that even a couple days later, people are still buzzing about this. So if you have not been keeping track, and perhaps not because you've been doing some other things, Brock Purdy imploded. Kaboom! Goes Brock. Who could have seen this coming? He imploded as the Baltimore football team now stands alone for the moment after 16 weeks of football atop the NFL mountain. And there's a lot to talk about regarding what happened the other night. Lamar Jackson has leapfrogged to the very top of the MVP race. We had talked about that on last week's TV show, that whoever played well and was part of the winning team would be the favorite for the MVP. Some things are very predictable. That was kind of obvious. The better story continues to be, though, the mugging by the Bay, something that our friends in the Bay Area are aware of. Muggings, there's a lot of them. It's a lawless old west town, San Francisco. Of course, the Niners jumped out of there long ago. They don't play in San Francisco. They play down the road 40 miles or so, which is what Al Michaels and every other broadcaster complains about when they go to do a 49er game. And so let us discuss the question. Let's just get right to the point. What is the 49ers fallout from Brock Purdy's El Stinko performance on Monday night? I've got Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Bandwidth, and Penn and Teller. And we will tie all of these things together, and we are going to make some extra sour in the sourdough bread. So, A, if John Tortorella was the broadcaster for that game, he would have said the obvious, that Brock Purdy sucked from head to toe. The 4 interceptions. Now, there are some Brock Purdy truthers, Brock Purdy forever people that are like, well, the first one was bad, but then he had a couple that were tipped, and, it's just bad luck, and blah, 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 blah. But I looked at it like this. This was a placement test. You've got these great numbers. You've got these amazing statistics. I have said for months that you're a system guy, and here's your opportunity to go out there. You're at home. You got all your guys. You got everybody's lined up there. There's no big names that are not there, and this is your shot on the big stage. Show me what you got. And he looked like he should be driving a tractor around the farm in Iowa, is what he looked like. The whole football world was watching, and he sucked at a time you cannot suck Brock Purdy. Now, I'm not going to sit here and do a victory lap, and we all know how this works in sports radio. The host makes a great take. Then people call up and say the host is an idiot. Then when the take is validated, the people that called up to rip the take run and hide and suck their thumb in the fetal position in the corner of the room and pretend it didn't happen. They're cowards. They're phonies. They're frauds. Happens all the time. Right, you dopes, you heard, you've been listening, you saw what I saw. That's hot take validation, which is fine. Watching Brock Purdy stand on the sidelines replaced by Sam Darnold is the ultimate sin. The ultimate sin. And it had me flashing back to my youth. The 49ers, what happened to Brock Purdy in the biggest game of the season? It's like the final scene of every episode of Scooby-Dooby-Doo. They pull the mask off of Brock Purdy's head, and he yells, I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you pesky kids on the Ravens defense. I would have gotten away with this scam. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that Brock Purdy can't continue to play well as a system guy against inferior opponents, because he's proven to be a great system quarterback, and he will continue to be a great system quarterback. But if there's one glitch, if there's one thing that goes haywire, it's kaput. It's Dunskies for Brock Purdy. And the biggest thing to take away from that game on Monday night is you can no longer trust him. You can't trust him. The Niners can have home field throughout the NFC playoffs and likely will. And it doesn't matter, because at any moment, Brock Purdy could go sideways and you're done. It doesn't matter how good your defense is. Doesn't matter how many yards Christian McCaffrey gets and your special teams and all that. Brock Purdy, that performance is a message that the Niners, they're just not as dominant as they had appeared. The numbers were dominant, but that all came unglued in that game. All of it. All right. Now, page 2. How important is it that Lamar Jackson, with all the gambling shops, is now the MVP frontrunner. So it's good fluff, right? It fills up a lot of bandwidth. It's good clickbait. It's also, I would say, irrelevant. Because even though, for the moment, Lamar Jackson is the MVP frontrunner, he does not have an MVP resume, statistically speaking. He does not. And we know that this is a fluid situation. There were people that were standing on top of Dak Prescott Mountain a few weeks ago as he was the MVP. At one point, Jalen Hurts, with all his turnovers, was the MVP. In fact, I would argue, based on what I have seen, there is no one that should win the MVP, right? Everyone's got issues. Everyone's got issues. It is a changing landscape. It's musical chairs. We love to build them up, and we love to knock them down. It's like Legos. Lamar, for the moment, is on top, and it's getting late in the year. There's only a couple of weeks to go in the regular season, but this is a revolving MVP race. You're really splitting hairs. Lamar, I would say, has a tenuous hold on this because, again, when you look at some of the numbers there, the Ravens' passing offense is not elite. He is not statistically an elite quarterback in terms of throwing the football, which is typically what you have to have as an MVP. But there will be someone, whether it's Lamar Jackson or someone else, who is imperfect, who is going to win this award. Because there is no one perfect. They were trying to prop up Brock Purdy as Mr. Perfect. Guess what? Not Mr. Perfect. All right, last word here. So where does the NFL power reside? Circa 2023, the Ravens currently on top. So taking a couple steps back and being away from the microphones for a few days here at a long weekend, it's like an episode of Penn and Teller's Fool Us. There's smoke bombs over there. There's shiny objects over here. There's a lot of deception. The 49ers getting pantsed with a fully healthy roster was unexpected. The Niners have mortality. The lesson, every team, we talk about the MVP race, and everyone's got issues there. There's no perfect MVP candidate. Well, every team is also flawed. In fact, this is by design. The term parody is a comedic term. It is also terrible for sport. And yet, the people that run sport want parody. The NFL's getting it. Almost half of the entire operation is either 8-7 or 7-8. 44% of the NFL. Almost one out of every two teams is either 8-7 or 7-8. Now, you got a few teams at the very bottom, the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Patriots. And you've got a couple teams at the very top, and then everyone else is kind of in the middle. And this is setting up for a goofy postseason. Expect the unexpected. Joe Flacco. What could happen? Joe Flacco plays like he did for the Ravens on that ridiculous, greatest playoff run I've ever seen in my life. Joe Flacco with the Baltimore Ravens when they rode to the championship. I think it was 2012. Could that happen again? Well, we're in bizarro land. How about Baker Mayfield go on an Eli Manning-like run? Baker Mayfield is actually a better player than Eli Manning. Eli Manning, an average quarterback, and had a couple of good playoff runs. Why can't Baker Mayfield do that? How about Matthew Stafford finding the magic again for the Rams? The Rams are starting to cook a little bit late in the year, and why not? Who says no to the Rams with Matthew Stafford? It's wide open. Hell, if the Raiders can sneak into the playoffs and ride a defense that shut down Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, wouldn't that be a storybook? Antonio Pierce, interim Raider coach, they sneak in the back door and don't lose and ride their way to a home Super Bowl game in Vegas. And they're the host team in their own stadium in a Super Bowl. And that's the kind of year it's looking like. You can make a compelling argument for several teams. You can also make a compelling argument against those teams. That the 49ers can't win because Brock Purdy against a good defense can't play. Cowboys can't win on the road. Or good teams on the road. Dolphins, you don't trust Tua. Go down the list. All right? You do that.